We're not even going to leave St. Stephen's here because this is such a beautiful photo. I have to include it. If you want to take a look at your worship experiences together as a congregation for any year, especially last year, you'll have all of this in a parochial report. And if you spent 5 minutes using simple math, you could figure out this level of detail. But you might even this year want to think about what your virtual worship would look like and what kind of picture you would include that would elaborate on what that virtual worship looked like for you. For most of the year, as we know, our worship might look different, and that's also good for us to remember. Many of us learn to do so much that is new to us, and in such a short period of time. We learned Zoom practically overnight, and as Julie and I were talking about, we have learned iMovie and other things to figure out how to edit video pretty quickly. We've learned Facebook Live, we've learned YouTube. If you have become proficient very quickly in some of these, it's good, it's okay, you can tell these things. We can now run a small movie studio out of our living room. We should tell these stories. It's okay to pull the curtain back and let people see what it took to make this happen. Our social time together is different too. How did y'all stay connected? Did you do Zoom coffee hour? Did people set up FaceTime check-ins? Did you even not do the virtual route? Did people stand at the end of the driveway or do the end of the porch type of connecting? These are great things to include in your narrative budget. I'd also like to suggest that sometimes it's okay to tell a story of aspiration. Sometimes we won't have won yet. We didn't achieve our goal. And this is a year when we probably need to give ourselves a lot of grace and remember that we are all learning. We've experienced a lot of challenges. And for many people, their health and the health of their loved ones have been critical concerns. So maybe the plans you had at the beginning of the year need to be refocused and reconsidered in the perspective of aspiration. Many years ago, and I desperately wish I could find the picture, I remember getting a beloved IKEA catalog. And I turned the pages, and on the page on one side was a picture of one cardboard box. And on the facing page was a short paragraph that explained that this was the one item they made that had recycled products, or maybe it was 100% recycled products, I can't remember. But it described the hard work they were doing to do better. Well, now, even if you don't know a lot about IKEA, you'll probably get that they do a lot better, as you can see from the current online materials. They have moved the bar. They tell a different story. But they didn't hesitate to start with a story of something small and give themselves something to aspire to. And I think we can do that too. Here's an example from St. Stephen's, Richmond, of a number, a photo, and a few words of storytelling, and it makes a tremendous impact. They took inspiration from the numbers page of a Real Simple magazine, and as you begin to think about how to tell your stories, also think about what you might want it to look like. As you flip through magazines and read articles in the newspaper or online, look at other churches' narrative budgets online for inspiration, think about how you would want your narrative budget to look like. And this narrative budget from St. Mary's in Goochland has a little bit of everything we've talked about. There's a lot of stories here, a lot of pictures, and information that represents these stories. People will literally see themselves represented here in these pages, remembering the times that they had. It's important to remember that emotions, not logic, drive our decision making. And as much as we like to think that we as humans are rational beings, we use our head as backup, and our heart actually drives our actions. So remember, you want to touch people's emotions when you're telling your stories. You want to make them feel. Our goal should be to make sure that most of our entire congregation is represented in some way, in some aspect of our narrative budget. All of our ages and the demographics that we have, from the new folk who've just joined, and all the folks who have grown up in our church, everyone in between. We can be creative in the way we look at how we ask questions and the way we present information. Think about the ways that your ministries work. Think about the time that parishioners and meet with people and the ways in which they interact with folks in the community. Do you have a festival or organize a community event? Did it take place before we closed? Or perhaps maybe it will even be able to take place later in the year. Maybe you were even able to shift it to a virtual space. Those will be incredible stories to tell. Maybe you participate in a farmer's market during the summer. You might think about the many jars of pickles or jam or the whatever your church makes that you make for your booth. It's fun to keep track of how many bushels or tomatoes it takes to make St. Marinara, or the cucumbers for your Episcopals. You can also include the time of the wonderful people who prepare them. And if you're updating your narrative budget this year, remember, don't try to change too many things. Pick one thing, maybe two. First of all, you don't want to overwhelm yourself with trying to do everything. And also, if you make too many changes in one year, you won't know what worked and what didn't. So, one thing, maybe two. Remember, narrative budgets are about a paradigm change. It's about looking at our lives in a new way. It isn't about budgeting to keep the lights on. It's about budgeting as an opportunity to deepen the spiritual life of your congregation by creating a faith community and increasing awareness of the need to support your ministries with a financial commitment.